people, and honestly, I want to make sure we have the full hour, because I feel like, there's probably so much. I mean, it's hard. Social media is a hard thing to navigate right now, because my 13-year-old has been away from his friends, right?
Yes.
We had a cohort family, that he was able to still have time with his friend once a week, where he got to see his friend face to face. But that's one friend. Thank
Yeah.
goodness he didn't get into a fight. Like, that would have just been so bad. But it's hard, because they're so social. Teenagers are social, and then, to say you can't see your friends, you're not going to school.
Yeah.
What a hard thing to get into.
I
Hey?
will. Yeah, I'd love to address that once we get going here, because yes, the pandemic has created this new issue when it comes to, everything I've said up to this point about social media still applies, but now the parents are really into now what you really need to do, because you're right, the kids need to have that socialization to some degree, even though in my book I say it's a technological connection, not really social in a way, because the definition of social is being with someone, and we're human beings, right? And we need that human connection, that being with people. But when you can't have that, then what's next? Okay, yeah, that's the good part of social media. It's like when you have a great grandmother living in Australia, and you can connect with her now because of social media, which is good. That's all good. People say too, well, these dating sites, people are finding love on dating sites. Well, they
Mhm.
eventually have to meet in the real world to see if that connection is actually legitimate, right?
Yeah.
So yes, during the pandemic, this has been a good thing, but there are still the same issues that apply, and the same rules that should apply, that I've been speaking about before the pandemic, about how to use social media safely, how to use it wisely, and especially young people, how to monitor their use to make sure that they don't get into an addiction, which can eventually cause mental health issues. So that's another teaser that we can talk about, and a parent's responsibility too, because the parents, you know, it, I talk to so many parents who say, "Oh, I gave them their phone when they were this age, and I don't want to really bother them that much, and think that they think that I don't trust them." Well, no, it's in your world, it's in your house, and parents have responsibility themselves too, to look in the mirror and say, "What's my responsibility when it comes to social media?" And your kids are just going to model that anyway. So you can't, as a parent, say you need to do this when you're doing it. You need to stop doing this when you as a parent are doing it yourself. So we can talk about that too, that if you're going to have this issue with your child on social media, and you're struggling with this child and their addiction on and everything, look at your own addiction first, and let's
Mhm.
solve that problem so you can be a good example to your children.
That is
So
so good.
I
That's
say
actually that's the way we navigate with the Brave Parent Institute. We're all about,
exactly.
we go first. If you want your kid to get off their phone, then you get
You
off
go
your phone
first.
first.
With anything, it's with anything, and it all comes down to parenting. That seems so glib to say, but it does come down to parenting. And everything I say about social media, it's a household rules. It's not just the kids' rules. It's not just adult. It's everybody's rules in that household. And I speak at schools across Canada, and I meet with the principals, and I say, you need to have rules in the school that apply to everyone, teachers, you, and the kids. So you guys are modeling that for the kids, and it's all over the board right now when it comes to schools and policies regarding cell phone use. Some just allow them that because, hey, it's technology, we got to allow the kids to have this technology. Others say no, we don't allow them in the classroom. Okay, so that's fine. So in the time when they should be socializing with other kids, during lunch and hallway breaks, they're on their phones. So other schools are going that step further and say, no cell phone use during instructional hours, like throughout the whole school day. And they're seeing great results with that. And
Yeah.
parents are applauding that, saying thank you, because now that gives us a good foundation for what we can do at home now. So that now the schools and the home are now on the same foundation.
And
So
that's so
yeah.
good, because I find that when I'm on my phone too much, like going into social media when I'm trying to get work done, I literally feel scattered and
Oh yeah.
stressed,
Yeah.
right?
Well, no, true, because it was designed to be addictive. So it's designed to keep you on social media. It's designed to keep you posting and responding and all that kind of stuff. And you're right, and you can go off on so many different directions, and your mind is just going, and that's where it can cause a lot of anxiety. Like, okay, now what? Oh, my friend just posted something serious. Now I feel responsible to respond to that, you know. And so and you have to do it quickly, because social media has caused us to be so impatient, and we want instant gratification, that when you post something you better get an instant response, like with texting too, right? You text someone, I want that instant response. And if you don't get it, and I say this to school kids across Canada, I say, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you send a text to someone and they don't get back to you right away? You know what they say? They're mad at me. See, right away, their mind went to, they're mad at me because they didn't get back to them in a nanosecond. And I say to them, cut the person some slack. Maybe they were busy. Like you just said, Connie, like, you get scattered and everything. Maybe you got called away, your child wants you, whatever. And people just think of themselves. And this is a concern about narcissism that social media can cause, especially with the selfie and everything, can cause narcissism, where it's all about you. And so when you don't get that response right away, or you don't get enough likes or comments, you think, oh, I better change. What did I do wrong? That sort of thing. No, it's not that. Maybe just people like to scroll through social media and not comment or not like, but they've seen it. But you put yourself out there basically to be critiqued. Because I tell young people, when in my gymnasium, I say, who wants to stand right up in front of me here in front of 800 kids, not say a word, and let's just open it up for people to critique you, what you're wearing, how you look, the size of your nose, anything like that. And nobody volunteers for that. And I say, but you're doing it on social media. You're putting yourself out there. Not everyone's going to be kind.
So true.
It is so true.
I'm curious, Wade. I would love to find out before we get in, and I know there's some parents on here specifically who have kids who are in some dangerous situations. So I want to get to that. But what
Yes.
I'd love to ask you first is like, why social media? What got you into this? What is your why behind all this?
Good question. And I get asked that a lot. I say, first of all, they say you've written a book called, unsocial media, virtual world causing real world anxiety. Why in the world are you on social media? Well, obviously I'm on it because I have to research and study and do, but I also take my own advice, and I'm on it safely. I do it wisely, that sort of thing. It's not all bad, but we can talk about that in a moment. The reason is, as a mental health advocate, I myself suffer from mental illness. I have like 5 different mental illnesses. I suffer from anxiety. I suffer from depression. I suffer from OCD. I suffer from ADHD. I suffer from seasonal affective disorder. I suffer from social anxiety disorder. So number 5 or 6 different disorders. But like I say in my presentations, because I usually shocks people when they hear, oh my goodness, that's a lot, right? How does he deal with that? But I usually say, but the good news for all the single women of the world is I'm available. Um,
Just a little plug there, ladies. Okay.
there you go.
Wade is single.
Contact information at the bottom of the screen. He's quite a catch. So, I've had 5 mental breakdowns. My worst was in 2010. And, I came from a difficult childhood. I was a lot of sort of abuse, emotional abuse and abandonment from a narcissistic mother. And that's all I have to say, because I know people doing this right now. And when I do this in my presentations, they can relate to that. There are so many people who have had mother issues, narcissistic mothers, controlling mothers. That's exactly where I came from. I never experienced a nurturing hug as a child. I never experienced the words said to me, I love you. Don't worry, it'll be okay. Can you imagine a child never hearing that? I used to cry myself to sleep at night in bed, singing the song, Where is Love, from the movie Oliver, because I related to that orphan. I felt like an orphan in my own home with my mother under my roof. And so here's this lonely kid who I would go to my bedroom, close the door, be alone to get away from that abuse. Because the only thing I heard from her was, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? When you didn't meet up to her expectations, right? Narcissistic, right? It's all about her. What is wrong with you? Those are the words that still ring true to this day, that I'm still dealing with. So every time she said that, it would break my spirit even more. So I'd retreat into my bedroom to get away from from the abuse. I'd listen to music, watch TV. I'd pretend I was on the radio because I had my own little turntable and everything. And eventually, years later, I did become a radio announcer, a 35-year radio career, which I realize now, because I just wrote my autobiography, writing the last chapter of my autobiography, just the light bulb went off. You know why I got into radio, Connie? I was looking for acceptance that I didn't get from a mother.
Wow.
And I did get it from hundreds of thousands of listeners across Alberta, but it didn't fill that void, right? Because that's just empty. It's people I don't know. I say this to young people in gymnasiums across Canada. Your self-worth isn't determined by others. You are enough. Now, if my mom would have instilled that in me, I wouldn't be this wreck as I am today. Or was until I got treatment, and I'm doing much better. But so that's my background, you know. So when I had my fifth and worst mental breakdown, I came out of that thinking, I need to tell my story. I need to use my name recognition as a well-known radio announcer and draw attention to the fact that what this is. What is anxiety? What is depression? Because it doesn't make sense. You know, I didn't know what to put a label on it. I just knew I wasn't doing well. I didn't label it until the doctors started labeling this stuff. And, oh, okay, that's what it is. And that's, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, so I've had this since I was like 6 years old when my parents divorced and my mother became so controlling and narcissistic and everything. So 6 years old, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was 31 years old. So through most of my radio career, my early radio career, I was struggling, but I had to perform on the radio. I would be exhausted at the end of that. So I decided to start speaking about this and open up a website and got invited to speak at major events across Canada. But then I started to notice all these people on their phones looking down, and I'm thinking, there's got, like just totally oblivious to what's going on around them. And I'm thinking there's got to be some sort of connection with this and mental health. This has got to be affecting people's mental health. So I took a year and I researched all of that. And sure enough, there was all this research out there that nobody was talking about. It wasn't coming on the news. It wasn't doing anything. All these papers that were written by well-known universities and everything. So I took all that information and I started to write about it, and I started to talk about it at teachers' conventions, and teachers were going, this is great. I see so many of my kids are, in school, and my own kids are like this. How can I get this information? Can you send me this slide, that slide? And I was getting overwhelmed with emails and everything. So that's when I decided to write the book, which is is it backwards on there? Yeah.
No, I can.
Can you see it written right the right way?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Right way, yeah.
Unsocial media, virtual world causing real world anxiety. And with the thumbs down to show that there's an issue here. And sure enough, all the studies showed that there is a connection between social media use and mental health. So that's how I got into it. And I'm still talking this because it changes every week. There's a new app out there. There's a new whatever. The Facebook breach happened, and people were freaking out about that, and all these things that are happening via social media. That I wrote the first book. This is the updated version that came out in 2018. The first book came out in 2016, and I just had to update it because there was so much that happened between 2016 and 2018. Thankfully, between 2018 and now, this is still very applicable to what's going on. And I think it will for a long period of time, because as I talk about this, there are people who are still going, wow, I didn't know that. Because this is the only book of its kind in North America. No one's taken all of these things and put it into one book. And so I've been asked to be on TV and all across Canada. It's written up in the Toronto Sun, because they're like going, oh, we didn't know about this. Well, no, because the people that did these studies just did them in universities, put out these studies, and maybe some local media picked up on it, but nobody picked up on nationally. Now we're starting to hear a story maybe once every couple, 3 months or whatever about sleep deprivation and screen time and all the things that I've had in my book since 2016. It's now starting to get mainstream, but it's still very applicable. So that's how I got into it, just noticing that people seemed really disconnected from the real world and from other people.
Right. Yes. Yes. Well, and it's interesting how we have seen such an increase in anxiety and depression since the iPad's debut, right?
You're right, and the stats do prove that.
Yeah.
That and kids are being diagnosed with higher anxiety and depression now earlier now than ever before. according to research from 30 years ago. Um, the one study in the book, the first study that I looked at was out of Germany that said that people actually felt worse about their own lives the more time they spent on social media, because they're viewing those perfect posts from other people. Like, people only post perfect things about their life, right? You don't know what's really going on, if they have a struggling marriage, if their kids are like little hellions and all that, but they have that beautiful picture of their family on a beach somewhere on vacation. And it was actually vacation photographs were the biggest cause of envy and resentment when people viewed them. Because up to this point, you would have to visit your friend in their home and open up their photo album and say, hey, you want to see my pictures from Hawaii? And then now they're like, boom, right in your face. And then Facebook reminds you a year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, to repost those pictures just to piss people off even more.
Those are the ones that get me. Those are the ones that get me. If I see somebody who's away, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, we need a holiday.
Yes, but okay, but you say that, but you think, oh, can we afford a holiday? And
No.
you start going down that road of, man, they can, I can't, blah, blah, blah. But again, you're only seeing that perfect part of their life. And we have to separate. See, social media has blurred the line between real and virtual. And you have to realize they stage that. And this is why there's so much pressure on young people to take that perfect selfie. They have to look perfect. And I have this in the book. Dermatologists or cosmetic surgeons are seeing an uptick in young people coming to get their nose fixed, specifically for their profile picture.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, and
affecting body image.
yes. Well, and as a woman, as a 45-year-old woman who loves filters, like, why doesn't Zoom have a filter?
Well, you look great.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like what you're saying, it affects us. And I think, here's me with a fully developed prefrontal cortex. I'm able to reason. I'm able to, think through things, and it still affects me. So if it affects me that much, how much more is it affecting our teenagers who are literally under brain development and they don't have the reasoning skills? Like, no wonder
No,
there's
well,
bullying and all this.
no wonder they're following the Tide Pod challenge or the dance beside a car with the door open challenge. They're not thinking, and they're getting hurt. They're getting, they're seriously getting ill over that. Like, they don't think, well, maybe this isn't a good idea, but you know what? Everyone's doing it. And I call it the lemming society, the follow the leader society. That's what young people are doing. Whatever they see on social media, and even, and I may get slammed for this, but I think young people today are quick to jump on any bandwagon if it's on social media, whether it's climate change, whether it's Black Lives Matters, which are all good causes, but they're not doing critical thinking. They're just saying, I need to go to this route, I need to do that, and they're not thinking about, okay, let's say climate change. What's the alternative right now? Rather than just saying, let's get rid of this, what's the alternative? But they want to just follow the hype about it and everything, and not really think about it. And with racism, okay, let's look at, rather than start tearing down statues and the history and all that kind of stuff, we learn from history. But kids don't want to learn from that. They want to get rid of that history and just like, I just want to knock these things down now, right now. So they're an immediate lemming, follow whatever some young person wants to put up a banner and follow that person, and which is fine. It's creating a lot of discussion. But again, because they're not thinking and not looking at a total picture, it just becomes these people just following these latest protests and crazes. And you ask them why. Well, I don't, but that's all they do. Because I saw it on social media. I want to do this. I saw people eating Tide Pods. I want to try that. So it can have that effect that is so powerful. Social media is so powerful. It can convince a young, beautiful girl, 14, to kill herself by just words saying, you are useless. You are ugly. I tell parents, I says, it's great to tell your child that she's a princess, that she's beautiful, but we need to redefine beauty. We got to get back to the character of that person, build that strength inside, because you can say that all you want, but when they get that one negative comment on social media, it'll crush them. It'll crush them, because social media is their life right now with young people. And what people say to them, they actually believe. So if we can say you're fierce, you're strong, you're a good friend, you know, you're funny, you got a great sense of humor, you're this and that. Build that up so that when they see that other crap on social media about their looks, they go, that doesn't bother me. See, social media, pop culture, you know, the magazine racks and everything, it's all about the outward appearance. It's all about how you look. What's interesting now with social media is seeing these stars without makeup. You know, when they're doing their things from home now, that's a more, because they don't have their professional makeup people with them anymore, so they're doing their own makeup, and some of it is like, you don't look like you usually do, right? Which is great. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. Why aren't you showing people what you really look like? And the selfie generation is trying to look so perfect that there's a concern with police forces across the world that when one of these young people go missing, all they have to go on is that profile picture, which doesn't really represent the true look of that young person.
Mm.
So that pressure to be something other than you are on social media is huge. And that pressure to follow, you know, any bandwagon or any challenge or whatever, they just do it. They jump on it. So you're right. There's no thinking before you do this stuff as to why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And what's that doing to your self-worth? Are you basing your self-worth on how many, you know, a lot of young people are basing their self-worth on how many likes, how many comments they get. That's a good day. I got lots. There's a thing called the 100 Club. It's out there worldwide, where young girls are trying to get 100 likes for their profile picture, be a part of the 100 Club. That puts a lot of pressure on a young girl, because now you've got girls who do get it and the girls who don't. And now you got this divide over what? 100 likes. It's, you know, when I delved into this, I really realized how deep it was, and how, you know, it is affecting people's mental health. It's causing sadness, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem. And it's all been proven that the more you go into social media, the more that can happen to you. So much that the medical community, in the next DSM, which is a diagnostic symptomatic manual that identifies all mental illnesses, like I have 5, 6 mental illnesses, they're all there. They've been identified as actual mental disorders. They're going to recognize social media anxiety disorder as a recognized official mental disorder in the DSM-6.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
what does that tell you?
Yeah, it sure says a lot. Well, and it is such a weird navigating world. I mean, I remember being on Facebook when Facebook came out, 2006. My son was just born. It was my connection to the outside world, you know?
Yeah.
And here he is playing at the play place. I often tell parents, you know, like the way it started was I had my friends on Facebook, my real, like actual friends. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just moved from Vancouver to Calgary. Great way for me to keep in touch with people. There's my little guy playing in the play place. Mommy, look at me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's nice, honey. That's nice. And I go back to my little scrolling world because it's my escape.
Yeah.
And so I often tell parents it wasn't my kids who were addicted to screens. It was me. And
Yeah.
I brought that into our house. It's on me, 100%. It's on me. And then it has evolved. I now have 5,000 friends on my Facebook. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who you
Friends.
are, people.
Yeah.
Friends, right? Like, who are these people? These are people that I've met at a business meeting who want to
No.
connect. These are people who like my message, whatever. And so now Facebook for me has become a place where I can't be 100% vulnerable, even though I try really hard to be real and myself. But there's stuff I would never post on Facebook, and I would
No.
only call up a friend and tell them. And what does this say about this world? It's a
Well, what
weird
it is,
world.
I really questioned when Facebook came up with that word friends. And in the book, I say a better one would be stalker. Because because if you look at the definition of stalker, it's to follow and bother someone constantly. That's what social media is. There's a study I have in the book where they took university kids who all had 155, each of them had 155 social media friends. Out of those 155, they asked him, how many do you consider true friends? Friends you can call on at any moment, friends to go out for a coffee, friends who would be there for you if you need them. You know what number they came up with, Connie? You take a guess.
Oh
Of
no,
155. 155 to what?
10, 3.
Four.
Sally says
Four.
3.
Four.
4.
You're getting there. Four. Think of your own friendships, right? Those close friends. You cannot nurture 155 friends. I have over 400 Facebook friends, and there was even a time when Facebook was considering having categories, like you have friends, you have acquaintances, and I'd put in their stalkers, right? So, so you can divide up who's who, but nobody wanted to do that because then your true friends think they were your friend, but you put them in the stalker category, which wouldn't be good for your friendship. But again, the people I have in my life are like 4 or 5 people who I nurture those friendships, right? So this whole thing about look at all the friends I have on social media, no, you don't. You have stalkers, you have acquaintances, you have whatever the case, business people, all that kind of stuff. So it isn't a true representation. But unfortunately, young people, they want as many friends as possible. And I tell them, how in the world can you nurture 300 friendships? You can't.
No.
So it's just a guide. See, when social media started, like you said, in 2006, the thumbs up symbol was created by Facebook. That was meant, when you click on it or you get one of those, that was meant to give you a hit of dopamine, which means, oh my goodness, that's a happy thing. Someone likes me, right? So that means you want to post more. So that's the addictive part, because they got you now. They got that dopamine going up in your brain and all this happiness you got because people are liking you. That's why they created that like button. And then you get now comments and all this kind of stuff, and you feel good about that. But it's not the real world. I say it like 4 times in the book. Only the real world can meet your social and emotional needs. Now, if you keep that in mind, when you're in social media, you keep that in mind, don't go down that road. Not that long ago, there was a group of teens who were invited to be part of a workshop where they were asked about their social media use and the emotions and feelings attached to social media. See, a lot of young people, it's all about the emojis now, right? The happy face emoji, the whatever emoji, this emoji. And I say, that's fine. I said, wouldn't you rather have a real hug versus a virtual hug? Wouldn't you rather see the real smiling face of your friend in real life than on social media? So that's what it's all about. So they started to talk about the emotions and feelings attached to social media. And they were asked specifically, and I have these questions in my book. Have you ever felt high anxiety or depression, low self-esteem, had body image issues based on things you did on social media? And they all admitted that they have felt those feelings. So when I talk to teachers and parents, I say, this is your takeaway. This is a door open for you to discuss this now with your young people, because unless you bring it up to them, they're not going to go down that road. They just think everything's fine, everything. Now they'll feel the bad parts of it. They will feel that, but they won't identify it unless you ask them, have you felt anxious about posting something, waiting for a response? Yeah, I have. So they have felt social media anxiety disorder. So there's our open door to have that discussion. Okay, tell us how you felt. Why did you feel this way? What did you do about it? We start delving into those questions and asking them this question: what is your main motivation for posting on social media?
Hmm.
I want likes. I want comments. Okay. Have you ever experienced FOMO, fear of missing out, which is huge amongst young people today? That's why they're so addicted to social media. They don't want to miss out on anything. Similar to when I was a kid, I didn't want to miss out on what everyone was doing and everything, but we had to like phone or person to person. Now it's all on social media. They don't want to miss out on that post or that party coming up or whatever. So FOMO is huge. They say, yeah, I'm on because I have this fear of missing out. Then we ask them that question: what are you missing out on? What do you think you're going to miss out on? That gets them thinking. Well, I might miss out on this or that or whatever. Have you ever, experienced high anxiety, like just waiting after you posted your selfie? Oh, absolutely. Do you find yourself constantly checking to see how many people liked it? Yes, I have. So we got to ask these questions to draw out their feelings and emotions so that we can deal with it. Say, you know what? I think you're getting a little too tied up in this because you're basing your happiness on your feelings and emotions, that we need to maybe take a step back and do more real life stuff so that we can affirm you in real life than what you're looking for in the virtual world.
Yeah. No, I so agree with this, Wade. Like uh it's such a problem. And then it goes even deeper into, some friends of mine and many parents that I know have teenagers that are getting into chat rooms, and not even with pedophiles, because a lot of them are smarter than that, some of them aren't, but people who are dangerous and getting them into
Yes.
trouble. And so, do you talk about that at all? Like the
Yes.
trouble that,
Yeah. I mean, you hear about stranger danger, right? We've been teaching kids that for decades. That person walking down the street, if you don't know them, there's kind of that stranger danger. But yet social media, it's almost like they've lost that filter in a way. Like, oh no, we're chatting in this reputable chat room, everything is fine. I says, no, you don't really know who you're chatting with. Whoever they say they are, you don't really know unless you met them in real life. And don't go down that road, because too many kids have done that. And that's what happens is they get this connection. Like you said, it's not always a pedophile, but they find this connection with this person. They may not be a pedophile, but they may be 10 years older than that 14-year-old, and just has a thing, one of the, just likes young girls or whatever, or just want, or they may have had some sort of weird connection. And I dial this back to is to the young person. Why are they looking for that affirmation online? Are they not getting it in real life? you know um, why are they so drawn to other people? That's what happened to Amanda Todd, the young girl who was in BC. If you go on YouTube and just put in her name, Amanda Todd, and I tell young people about her, she's the one that had those flip cards. She said, hi, my name is Amanda, and she just tells her story, how she got into one of these chat rooms. She had low self-esteem. And a lot of girls, especially girls, go into this chat room when they have low self-esteem. They're trying to get built up. So she got built up by this person that she thought was her age, but it turned out to be a pedophile. He was building her up. Oh, you're pretty. You have a nice voice. You should sing. So she sang for him. Oh, you should be a singer, and just praised and praised her. And then all of a sudden the weird stuff happened. You need to take off your clothes and everything. And then he admitted who he was and says, now I'm going to blackmail you. You do this for me, or else I'm going to send this out to everybody out on the internet, to your family, your friends, and everybody. And so she was scared. She was blackmailed. So she continued on until she finally decided to stop it. But unfortunately, it was too late, because she already felt the guilt and the shame and the bullying from everywhere. She had to change schools 3 times. It followed her. Now, she did make a choice. And I tell young people, all it takes is that one sexting picture or that one thing that you're doing that will follow you for the rest of your life and will cause lots of issues. It caused issues for Amanda Todd that she eventually took her own life. She was in that much pain. You see, social media is blurring the line between reality and virtual. And people think that they can do things on there that's safe. I tell young people all the time, whatever you do on there online is permanent. It's out there for good. Even on Snapchat, where you can delete it after 5 seconds or 10 seconds, no, it's still out there, because police can still go in there and get that if they need it for a case, if your body is found somewhere because someone just killed you based on that. So these are things that parents need to be aware of, that just don't allow your kids to be on these things just all the time. Now, I know you can't be 24/7 over their shoulder, but you can. There are parental guidelines that you can, and things you can do on their phones to make sure they don't go into these apps and stuff. In my book, I list a bunch of apps that are dangerous because they allow people to be on there who are totally anonymous and can lure kids. That even happened with Pokemon. Bad guys were luring kids with Pokemon, to these places where they were very discreet in the woods. Hey, follow this little Pokemon guy. And these kids were following Pokemon. See, that's how addictive it is. Video games are now based from the World Health Organization, say they are now an actual addictive disorder. That's how addictive video games are. And what's interesting is people of all ages are addicted to video games, not just young people. Men, usually in their 30s, are very much addicted to video games. So I worry about those men in their 30s, what their kids are on all the time too. It comes down to, what are you modeling as a parent? So there's a number of things. Yeah, there's things that kids are getting into that, you know, are very scary, especially when they're chatting with someone they don't know who they are. You should know who they're chatting with as a parent. You should, and if you don't know that person is not in that circle of friends of your kid, get them off social media now.
Mhm. This actually really reminds me of, now this is in the real world, but Dr. Gordon Neufeld has a book called Hold On to Your Kids. It's the dangers of a peer-oriented culture. You know, when our kids get to a certain age, of course, you know, mom becomes an idiot. I'm at that phase right now. Fun, fun. You know, I know nothing, and
I'm
my,
past that phase now. I'm the cool dad, so
oh,
it does get better. It does get better.
you know, that's really encouraging to hear. Um, because yeah, I can't wait till I know a few things again. But you know, in
Yeah.
that phase, like the peers are right there waiting, and they're either waiting in person or they're waiting online. And peers don't have to be people they know. Peers are people that they're connecting with. Who are they connecting with? Which brings it back down to, you know, this idea that we need to be their dopamine fix. That like that they're wanting on Instagram needs to come from the parents. We need to be the one that they look to for their affirmation, for their self-worth.
Yes.
And so many of us just don't know how to do that.
Well, you know, because you're now competing with social media. You're not as exciting as some of these apps. I'm sorry to say that, Connie,
I'm not
but
excited.
you're not as exciting as social media, because it is exciting, and that's why, you know, the kids have that kung fu grip on that phone. You know, you can't rip it out of their hands, because it's become the most important thing in their life. It's become this thing that's giving them all that dopamine. So you're right. What I like to say, as far as when it comes to social media use, again, about using it wisely, using it, you know, we need to reward, and especially parents right now who are watching this right now, and I tell parents all over Canada, if you have a child who's rebellion um, against you because you're trying to put on limitations on their cell phone use and social media use, and they're just like, and you just have to YouTube this, kids who will fight, scream, kicking, yelling, swearing, spitting, hitting, when the parent is trying to have some control in their own home on a phone that they bought for their kid, and they're paying for the internet, and they're fighting with this kid. Here's what the experts say that I researched in my book. They say, first of all, you have to realize how addictive it is. Like with any addiction, you first have to realize it is a strong addiction. Whether it's heroin, whether it's drugs, you know, any kind of drugs, alcohol, pornography, it's an addiction. And you don't want to just do the cold turkey thing, because that's become such a important part of their life that you rip out of their hands. You're just opening yourself up for a whole bunch of bad times in your household. So what you need to do to scale it back is you reward the child social media time when they spend time in the real world with the family. Because a lot of times I talk to parents and say, oh, they're in their room all the time on social media. We're having a games night. They're not interested, whatever, blah, blah, blah. No, you come and play the games with us, and then you get to do social media when we tell you you can. So it's a reward system to make social media not the be all and end all in your real world. In your real world, it's going to be real world activity with your family, with your friends. We're going out for dinner. There's going to be no phones. You show us what you can do in the real world as a person and connecting on a social level with everyone in the family and other people. Then we will reward you with time in the virtual world. Because I say the virtual world is a nice place to visit, but you don't want to live there. Too many young people are living there. We got to get them back to living in the real world and let them. So don't take their social media away, because it's here to stay. You just have to realize that it's such an important thing. And the balance right now is like this, you know, This is the virtual world. This is the real one. We got to get it back down to maybe something like this, where it's more the real world versus the virtual world, and that's a reward system, and that really works well for video games, especially. Experts say because video games is all about solving problems. You want to get to the next level, and even though they're very violent and everything, but it's still you want to get to this next level. And so you want to solve problems. So you teach your child to solve problems in the real world, and once they do that, then you reward them with the virtual world. So it's all about balance, and we got to get that balance back. And I tell parents who tell me, "Oh, I don't want to, have my child think that I don't trust them on social media." And I say directly to them, "Who is the parent here? Whose house is it? Whose bedroom is it? Do you want your child to be popular, or do you want your child to be safe?" Because they say, "Well, all their friends are doing this, and when they go to their friend's house, they're doing this." No, if you establish your rules in your house, those same rules apply at the friend's house. That's how it should be. And so when it comes down to that, it's a parenting issue. But again, allow them social media. You're not taking it away cold turkey, because that's the most important thing in their life right now. But you're going to draw it back, have more activity in the real world. And you know what? I've talked to young people who say, "You know what? We went camping and we didn't take our phones, and because we didn't have internet." And I said, "Did you have fun?" "You know what? I did." Again, it comes down to we need to expose them to these. They're not going to discover this thing on their own. They're not going to discover what it's like to not be on social media unless they're actually drawn to that and encouraged to come over to that side. So the more we can get them into that real world, enjoying things that are, try to make it just as pleasurable. Like you don't want something really boring, comparing, let's knit socks, in the real world versus being on social media. You're gonna have more of an issue, right? Let's write a letter to grandma. I mean, that should be done. But anyway, but don't do boring things. Do the laundry and then you can do this. No, make it exciting. Make it much more. We're going out for ice cream. We're going to play this game. We're going to, do this. We're going to invite friends over. So the more you do that, the more they're going to realize there is fun stuff in the real world. And then you reward them on your terms, the time that they should be on social media. And let me tell you, in my book, the recommendation is for teenagers, maximum 2 hours a day. That's it. You know what the stats are right now, Connie, for teens?
What?
8.7 hours.
Yeah.
Way off the chart. And that's for optimum mental health. That comes from the Canadian Pediatric Society. That comes from the American Pediatric Society. That comes from every mental health organization in the world. My book is endorsed by the Mood Disorder Society of Canada. They were behind me right from the start in 2016. They said, yes, this needs to get out because maximum 2 hours a day. So that leaves lots of time for real world stuff. But parents sometimes are getting, just like in my generation, they're getting lazy when it was the TV, right? Oh, go sit in front of the TV, watch Sesame Street. It's the babysitter. Oh, you can go on social media, and the parents have that time to themselves. The latest study, just not that long ago, 4 out of 10 children actually believe that their parents spend more time with their phone than they do with them.
Well, and that's it right
40%.
there. Wow. And you nailed it. Like it's not our kids that are the problem. Or some parents might say, actually, I'm not addicted to my phone, and good for you. That's great. A lot of parents put down these parameters that you're talking about, but their kids put up such a stink that
And
they're
they
like,
give up.
fine. Right? Or
Yeah.
like Catherine posted in the chat, she's like, parents need to be united. So you're the bad guy because you're the only parent putting these parameters down, and
Yeah.
everybody else's parents are letting them wildly go free. And then your kid hates you because you're the only one. You're the only one. And so she's like,
You're
parents.
not the only one, but that's how it's perceived, and that's how your child is going to perceive it if you weaken and you cave to that. But I love that comment by the chat saying, so this is what you do when your child is going over to that place. Now you talk to that parent, say, here's our rules when it comes to social media. So if you can adhere by those, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And
And and it and if they can't for some reason, then you tell your child, okay, you're probably going to be on social media a little bit more. Don't think that's the norm, because when you get back home here, it's still the same rules apply. So he still has that foundation no matter what. Because you're right, the other parents will say, well, we don't have a problem. We like to let him, whatever.
Exactly.
That's not how they sound, but
No, it's so true. Well, and what's great is that it is a real brave journey. And I brought Sally on here as well because she is our connection coach for the Brave Parent Institute. She's got some expertise on connection, and Sally, I know you jumped in, when you got home from your appointment, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this replacement of, replacing social media with yourself. And then Wade, I want to circle back when she just gives a couple thoughts and just make sure we get your info because I want people to buy your book because it's very important. So, but
well,
Sally,
thank you. I do too.
yeah. This is this man's meals, friends. Meals.
I got nothing planned for supper until I sell a book.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts, Sally?
Well, it's interesting because I really feel like I love Wade. I've known Wade for a while. He interviewed me back in the day, and I love what he has to say about this social media thing. And I think it's so huge. And I find that parents are overcomplicating connection. We don't need it. Your kids don't need freaking Disneyland. They need you.
Yeah.
End of. I remember one time I years ago I gained a lot of weight. I was really, really big and I had lost all of that weight. And I said to my son Brady one day, I said, so who do you like best, fat mom or skinny mom? And you know what he said to me? I thought he'd say something totally different. He said, he was about 11 at the time. He said, skinny mom, because she goes on roller coasters with me.
Mm.
And that was a huge eye opener for me. It's like, I thought it was going to be that you were, I don't know what he was going to say, but it was more about health and stuff. No, he just wanted me to go on roller coasters. I got to say that as a skinny person, I still freaking hate roller coasters, but that's another story for another day. But parents seem to overcomplicate the connection thing.
Yeah.
It's, and we're big board game players in our family, and we are big, but we do a lot of biking and we go for walks. Those are the kind of things. It doesn't have to be, okay, today we're connecting and this is what's going to happen. It's just like, it's the little things, and the little things become the big things. My mom died when I was 18 and she was sick for 2 years. And the things that I remember about her, we traveled a lot. We had great times, but it was like, I remember she was taking chemotherapy. And so she couldn't be in the bath by herself. So I would sit on the vanity with her so that she was safe in the tub. Because I was like 16 when she was diagnosed. Those are some of my happiest memories of my mom, was those talks. And I think it's just a case of, you guys, put your phone down, and you can't be doing this. Yeah.
No.
Put that thing down and turn the ringer off.
You know what, Sally? I'll just jump in here and say there's a word for that, and it's in my book. And I think I told you this word. It's called phubbing. Phubbing. It's a combination of the word snub and phone. Snubbing and phone.
Good.
You're phubbing. I didn't come up with it. Some other person did. Phubbing. And so many people are being phubbed, but so many people are phubbing others. I've seen friends do it to friends. I've seen parents do it to their kids. We always say, oh, the kids are always on their phone. I've seen at McDonald's a parent with their 3-year-old daughter. The daughter's eating her French fries, whatever, and the parent's on her phone. Like, here's an opportunity to connect, like you said, Sally, connect, and you're wasting it by being on your phone because you're phubbing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the whole idea is, and I've got older children and a 9-year-old, and the whole idea is, with connection, is just your time. So it doesn't have to be something elaborate and fancy. Just and I don't think they even need it. I mean, you could say, let's walk to the ice cream store. Well, you're talking in that walk, and the reward at the end is you're luring them with the ice cream, right? But,
well, no, it's true. And I did say, that you are competing with social media. I didn't mean that you have to go above and beyond, like to Disneyland, like you said, and everything.
Right.
What's going to allure them to the real world is that real world connection that they're not going to get on social media. We are human beings. We are meant to be together. We need that human experience together. So that's what's going to, hopefully they'll see the difference. Because right now, young people don't see the difference. They just think, oh, social media, virtual, real, it's all the same thing. It isn't. And there's so much benefit to just taking that walk, using the ice cream, I like that, and just connection. I had a young boy that I met last summer, at a summer camp thing or at a lake that my sister had land at, and they were the neighbors, and they came over, and I've never seen such an empty shell of a 12-year-old boy
Wild.
who was constantly on his phone. Now he experiences high anxiety, depression, and he was going into that virtual world, which actually made it worse. But
Made it
he
work.
didn't think so. He didn't think so. He just thought that was his world. He didn't say a word to me. So I pulled the parents aside and I said, listen, I've written this book. I see there could be some issues here. I really don't think, tell me his stories. And while he spends a lot of time in his bedroom alone, I says, that's got to stop right now.
Yeah.
Isolation is the worst thing. And
Yes.
social media is done in isolation. And so if you already have existing mental health issues, or if you have issues at home, it's going to make it worse. Like I was abused as a child. My parents divorced when I was 6. My mother was narcissistic and everything. If social media was around back then, I would have gravitated towards it too,
Absolutely.
looking for that affirmation, looking for that acceptance that I wasn't getting in the real world. So they just sort of gave up on him and said, well, we just let him go in his room. I said, that stops now. I was very bold, and I am very bold about this because I care about, I don't want to read about that kid in the news that he took his own life. So, and he was on that, he was just going into junior high. Oh my God, add that to the mix. So everything was just a powder keg of ready to explode.
Yeah.
So thankfully, and I believe we're put in a position to help people. You just don't know, I was bold in walking up to this family. I believe things happen for a reason. And I said, here's my book, you read it. At least get him out of that bedroom, get him more in real world activities. He says, well, he doesn't want to get involved in family activities. It says you need to force him. Get involved, force him, and get him off social media and work your way back into it later when he's more healthy. I didn't hear anything for about a year. Absolutely, about a month ago, I heard from my sister who talked to them and said, he's a new kid now.
Awesome.
He read my book, and he understands the issues that he needs to be aware of. And the dad said, thank you so much. You saved my kid's life. We went for a 2-hour long walk and his kid didn't shut up. The kid did all the talking.
Yeah.
And I didn't get one word out of him when I talked to him. So it can turn around. Yeah. But it needs good parenting. Sometimes it needs an expert like you, Sally, or me, or Connie. Needs people like that at seminars, that people come to seminars and go, you know what, I didn't realize that. Or people need to read my book to open up the discussions so that we can get these kids healthy again, because too many kids are not healthy emotionally, mentally, physically, even because of social media.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we were at a restaurant, and I'm with my 2 grown boys who are 22 and 19, and I said the first person that picks the phone up pays the bill.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
And
no, it's true.
Guess what? I said, I'll pay the bill, but if one of you even looks at your phone, you're paying the bill. So we took our phones and we put them upside down on the table and turned the ringers off, and we had an amazing lunch. And that's how you do connection. It's not rocket science. It's just turn your phones off and eye to eye. Look at me.
But you know what? There's a thing called nomophobia. Nomophobia. That's the fear of not having your phone. And I talk to mostly women who, when I say nomophobia, see, you've learned phubbing now, you learn nomophobia.
I'm learning all these new words.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I say to women, when you just go to the grocery store, I shouldn't be sexist here, a man or a father, mother, or anyone goes to the grocery store. I say, how long are you gone for? Oh, maybe an hour. Is it close by? Yeah, it's not that bad. You'll drive, right? Yeah. Will you take your phone with you? Of course. Then I say, why? Right. Then I get the whole laundry list of what could possibly go wrong in that 1 hour. Well, my kids may need me. I mean, to call my kids. My car may break down. I could have a flat tire. I could, basically the world could end, right? So then I say this. And this kind of makes it silent afterwards. It says, how many times has any of that happened in the past 5 years? 0. So you know what that is? It's irrational fear because we don't have that phone in our hand.
That's right.
Yeah. I want to jump in here because there's been a couple of comments on time. And I know that we probably need to wrap up because I really try to keep this to an hour. But, when I hear you, Wade, and when I hear you, Sally, talk about connection being the goal, I think that it would be really good for parents. If you hear anything about connection, please do not make the time limit on your child's screen your focus, because what's going to happen to you is you're going to get so fixated on setting your timer for 2 hours. Instead, reverse it and make the connection time the goal to start.
Yep.
Build that. and
Yeah.
then start focusing on the time. But if you're focused on time, oh my goodness, first of all, a lot of the things that we talk about in the Brave Parent Institute is the difference between control, fear, and punishment, and natural consequences and connection. We
Yeah.
really walk parents through that. And when you become time fixated, you're
No.
walking in fear, control, and
Yeah.
punishment. And that
And I should,
what?
and that's why I say,
Disconnection.
and that's why I say that too. That's a guideline, right?
Oh
Every
yeah.
child, every child is different. It's a guideline, and don't be, like you said, don't be fixated on ding that time, because that's just going to cause more issues,
Yeah.
But make that a good guideline for your online use. And also in the real world, you're not going to do that time thing in the real world. So why do you do it in the virtual world? But you just use it as a guide, and so the kids know that there is no, they think it's unlimited. They can go as long as they want. And how many times have you guys been on social media and you're scrolling, all of a sudden 3 hours go by, 4 hours go by, and you're like, oh my God, I just wasted all this time, right? So use that as a guide so that they know there are parameters. But in the real world, there are no parameters. If we're having fun, we're not going to go, oh, our 2 hours is up, get on social media. No, you're going to continue that. And that's a good thing, because they're going to realize this is a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
So if they go 2 hours and 15 minutes, big deal, but use that as a parameter.
Yeah.
That's so good. I love that.
And one thing, if I may, Connie, people ask me this all the time, what is the right age for giving a cell phone to a child? It has nothing to do with age. It has to do with need versus want. Every kid's going to want one, but do they need it? Are they going to be on 3 different buses and you maybe want to connect with them? Okay, that's fine. That's a need. It also, how disciplined and how self-disciplined and how mature is that child? Because you put that thing in their hand, that addictive device in their hand, it is going to cause all kinds of issues if they're not mature. If you're fighting with them to do their chores at home, make their bed, do their homework, why would you want to give them that phone? I talk to so many parents across Canada who tell me, I regret that decision. And let me tell you, the latest stats show that as young as 6 years old are getting their first cell phone. And I say, why is that?
Why?
Because the parent has one and the kid's going to follow suit no matter what. That's why it's a parenting issue. It's not a need, it's a want. And so if it is a need, you don't have to go full bore with the iPhone 28 or whatever they're at now. Buy them the old flip phone. It's called the dumb phone. They call that a dumb phone now. Don't tell your kid it's called that, because they won't want it. But it's called a dumb phone. All it does is text and phone. So if you need to connect with your child, just get them that phone. And there's virtually no way they can get on the internet. And why are you paying for their first internet phone? Let them pay for it. The experts say the longer you wait, the better for their mental health, for giving them that addictive device.
Good to know.
You know who doesn't allow their kids on social media to this day?
Who?
Isn't it?
Sean Parker, the guy who existed with Facebook with Zuckerberg. He was the guy who came from Napster and helped create Facebook with Sean Parker. He says he admits now that they created something that is horrible for children. He says what it's doing to children's brains. I have the quote in my book. I won't look it up, but he goes, God help us knowing what it's doing to our children's brains, and I do not allow my kids to be on social media. Do you know who doesn't have an iPad?
Who?
The kids of Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs' kids. I knew that.
Yeah.
Because he says, I'm not going to give them this. So these are the guys who created it. Now, I'm not going to give them a pass because they knew what they were creating. But years later, especially Sean Parker realized, oh my God, what did we create? Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying it's all bad. It's about balance, and it's about good parenting, and it's about monitoring, and it's about just being in connection with your kids, but having them be in the real world more than they are in that virtual world. And then you'll have a happier kid. You won't have anxious kids about worried about every little like they get or whatever, because that's not going to be important to them. What's important is you, your family, the time they spend with you. Those likes and comments are just going to be, it is what it is, So you got to be careful. And that's what this is all about. Bye, my baby. Uh,
Yes, buy his book.
it came out in 2016. This is the updated version, has all the latest information on here. It's a great way to open up a discussion with young people. Teachers are using this right across Canada. Parents are using this as a way to open up discussion. It's very well written because I'm a simple guy. I come from a broadcasting background, so I want to be able to make sure that I communicate with you. There's no fancy words in here because, well, I don't know any. So it's all just in here. On social media, virtual world causing real world anxiety. Yes, it's available chapters, but I don't make as much money off it there. You can buy right off my website. I'll autograph copy for you. It's wadesorochan.com. That's it, just wadesorochan.com. You can buy this. You can even buy my autobiography if you want to hear more stories about my mental health challenges through working on radio for 35 years. But this book has really allowed me to travel across Canada and really bring up an issue that parents, don't throw your hands up in the air and say, I don't know what to do, I give up. Here's a resource that'll help you open up that discussion and be a better parent. I'm not saying you're a bad parent, but you're competing with something that is so
Right.
addictive for young people, and it's right in their wheelhouse of, you got to get likes, you got to get comments, put yourself out there, you got to do a selfie, blah blah blah. Back in the day, when we had cameras, we had to pay for film, so we never took that many pictures.
No.
And I never took a picture of myself like this back in the day. No, that was ridiculous. But it's become a thing, and they're taking thousands and thousands of pictures, and it's causing body image issues. Body dysmorphia is huge right now with young girls because they're looking at themselves and they go, I need to fix that nose. And they're hyper focused on their looks. And that's what social media is doing. It's causing people to be hyper focused on their looks and be hyper focused on their things and only post perfect pictures, even though you're not perfect. So it's not real. But you can visit there, have a good time, chat, do things, go on some of the fun apps. There are good apps out there, but come back to the real world where only the real world can meet your emotional and social needs.
So
Absolutely.
good. Well, Wade, I put your website on both our Facebook Live
Thank you.
and on the chat. And I also posted our Brave Parent Institute. And you know what? We'll consider you a friend. We'll consider you a friend that we
Thank you.
rely on.
Thank you.
This
Anytime.
kind of information. And so please make sure you look at Wade's website, look at what he has to offer. When schools get back in, you would be very wise to bring him in. And if
Yeah.
any parent is wanting to navigate this, we're not going to solve the world's problems in an hour, but that's why we have our Brave Parent Institute. We have a counselor that's accessible. We have coaches. We have a village of support to walk with you through these things. And even after COVID, this is our last free Brave Parent webinar, but the support doesn't stop.
No.
I need a break. My kids need connection. COVID for me has been, I've been on the front lines for 3 months, and my kids are needing just mom to take a break. And so, we listen to the rhythms of our family. And so that's why this is the last one. But like I said,
I think it's interesting because the COVID thing has got people on social media more.
I
And
know.
what I'm hoping is that they're sick of it, that they want to get back to real life again, going outside and doing all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping it kind of does that, because I know a lot of people are on social media. But Connie, I so appreciate what you're doing, because there's that saying that says, parenting doesn't come with a handbook, right? But what you're doing is like giving parents a handbook. And when we do these kind of webinars, it's helping parents. So we all have our different areas of strength. Sally about connecting, and you, Connie, about really in lifting up parents and dealing with things. And me, it's the social media connection and mental health. So we get people together like this, and I hope it does really help others. When you go to my website too, people can email me anytime with a question or concern and whatever. I'd be happy to answer those questions.
That's wonderful.
For free.
Oh, free. What? Okay. Well, thank you, Wade. Thank you, Sally, again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone else who joined in. And please keep in touch. And I will be emailing the recording of this. And Wade, I'll make sure you get a copy of it. And just everyone stay in touch over the summer. We have an amazing, actually, if you're wanting to know how to connect with your kids, on our Brave Parents social media over the summer, we're going to be posting connection pieces, it's a summer of connection. So check out our Brave Parent Institute social media, and every day we're going to post connection ideas for you and your family so that you don't have to think of it yourself. Isn't that just great?
That is, and as I say goodbye, the three last words that I say in my presentations, the three last words in my book: keep it real.
Keep it real. Well, on that note, everyone, have a great rest of your day, and thank you again, Wade and Sally.
Keep it real.
Bye, bye, Wade.